Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing Twisters. This film was directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Obviously this is a sequel to the film Twister that came out in the mid-1990s, and that film was very zeitgeisty. It has a lot of sentimental value, I think, for a lot of people. I do love a good cheesy 1990s disaster movie, you know, in the style of Volcano or Dante's Peak, and I love just like the image in those 90s movies of it's like a room full of computers and a bunch of people vigorously typing, throwing walkie-talkies at each other. Catch! We're on it! There's always that one side nerdy, quirky character who usually is wearing like a Hawaiian shirt or something. There is a warmth to that. I think these films are golden, and they're golden because I think they exist in a pre-9/11 world, a more innocent America, where, there was a sense of bravado, a sense of pride and confidence that emanated from the art at the time. But the new film, Twisters, is directed by the guy who made Minari, and that film was critically acclaimed at the Academy Awards in particular, but personally I did not care for it. It was a little too sentimental for my taste. But we're seeing a growing movement where we see independent filmmakers, once they gain that critical acclaim with the Academy, it's like they're given these gigantic projects like Marvel movies and such. And that's the case with this director. It's the case with like Chloe Zhao in Nomadland, or Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman. To me, that instinct is completely off. Not always, but I think for the most part, and that's just common sense to me. So yeah, I was worried about that once I discovered he was going to be the director of this, and yeah, I think I was right, at least, so far as how I received the film, because I did not care for this film. It's not terrible. It's fine. There are some things in the movie that I did like, but there was a lot more things that I disliked. But I will start with, some of the things that I did like. I think overall, I think they were trying to capture the spirit of the original. At least, what they were aiming for, I think, was right in theory. It was just more the execution and the point of view that's more the problem. But it certainly knows the original film very well, and it respects it. And I think a lot of people, why they like the original film is because they were able to marry the spectacle of everything with some endearing characters. They were able to build some interesting relationships, and of course the chemistry between Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. It crackled, and I think this movie is trying to find the character relationships to try to balance out the thrills of it. I think the two leads are really good. I think they did well in the casting of Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell. And the two of them, I think, are trying their best to find the spice that is certainly lacking in the script. And it's certainly not their fault, but their entire flirtation, romance, whatever you want to call it, it is undercooked at best. And both of the characters have so little to them, so it's hard to want to root for them as characters. It's more just, their screen presence that makes them so magnetic. And Powell here, he's working the Matthew McConaughey charisma without leaning too much into the humor and the eccentricity of that, like Matthew McConaughey does. Honestly, he reminded me in this movie of Matthew McConaughey in Robert Zemeckis' Contact. I mean that in the sense that, he's trying to be a leading man, but in that film, Contact, McConaughey's character, it's like he just shows up conveniently at all the right places. It's like he can walk through walls. He has clearance in the Oval Office, and he's a priest? And it's kind of the same thing here. He always just happens to show up wherever Kate, the main character, happens to be. And yet, again, it's like you want to follow Powell because you believe in his humor. You believe in his earnestness, too. It makes him a natural on screen. And I think Jones also, she has a maturity that is far beyond her years as an actress. And I think she has a strong career ahead of her. Again, it's not, both of these people's fault that the material they are given is just not worthy of their talents. To me, this is the kind of movie where you want it to feel like a ride that you bought a ticket to. And there are moments that are kind of percolating that remind me of that adrenaline rush that I'm seeking, and that sense of genuine fun, but just not enough. It's just in little flashes. I'll also give a nod to the score. It's obviously trying to reference the original, and of course, 1990s film scores of the time, which are they're very second-rate Aaron Copland in style, and yet I really love it. Orchestral scores have just always had more impact for me, and that's just a personal taste thing, and I never got over that as we transitioned into a different type of scoring and instrumentation. So yeah, it's good to see that back here. It's all those details, those little touches that did please me. It's always conscious of the blockbuster packaging. Even when, certain moments of the plot might seem silly or whatever, you can kind of excuse it because, it knows what kind of movie that it is. One of my complaints about the original Twister is that I never felt like we had a good sense of the impact of the tornadoes on the cities and on the people. And I think that might have helped give it some perspective and help kind of, raise the risk of it. So there you have the emotional impact, and you see maybe another side to the thrill aspect. I'm not saying you want to lean too heavily into the self-seriousness of it, but, just get more of a sense of the consequences. And I do think that they tried to do that here, even if it is dumb as hell, because, our heroes in this movie, they feel like they need to help the people, but, that amounts to next to nothing. But again, it's silly, dumb fun, and that works to an extent, but I think just at the core level, the foundation of it, the movie is just full of plot holes. And after a while, a lot of that does add up. Characters, like I said, they lack depth where I think it really could have been utilized. And, there's all these different side stories that are formulating, but then they don't really go anywhere. The midsection starts to feel repetitive and thin. Like I mentioned before, it's like characters will show up at the most convenient times for the purpose of easy plotting. And yeah, all of that bugs me. Overall, this film just feels artificial in terms of the way it's trying to create all of the excitement. It's trying to capture a sense of, American idealism and nostalgia, but it doesn't really understand how to bring that into the modern day, into 2024. 2024 is a very different time than 1996. Again, you go from like brassy movies pre 9/11 to, movies that are much more self-serious, where we're so afraid of our own shadow. And so, there needs to be a crossover in that. Top Gun Maverick, as an example, I think found the perfect marriage of, again, the nostalgia of the past and bringing it into the present in a way that I previously thought was almost impossible. They managed to do that, and I think a lot of people have mentioned this, it's because they were able to keep the politics ambiguous, and yet they are returning to a lot of central values that are missing in our current American films. And when it comes to American blockbusters, they have a specific mood and attitude that is very, very hard to emulate. It's just something, I almost feel like you're born with it. There's just a gusto that vibrates. I just don't think that this kind of director is well suited for that kind of, chest puffery, that kind of bombastic filmmaking. He approaches that kind of redneck swagger like a guy who went to like a liberal arts college, and it's just like, come on, yo. It's like, yeah, we get it. Tornado big and fun. Woohoo. We got that the first 278 times you shoved it in our face. The more that you beat me over the head telling me how much fun I'm supposed to be having, the less I'm going to be having fun. I can only buy into this stuff so far. Again, it just feels so manufactured, especially like the American flag symbolism that is appearing in the background or like on the main character's jacket. It's all the perfume of American nostalgia with none of the substance. I think it's too wrapped up in a lot of, current cliches that don't feel honest, particularly progressive cliches. One of my big ones is the main character, Kate. She's another Mary Sue archetype that I loathe. Obviously, this archetype is populating American movies ad nauseum, and she's meant to be like this nurturing, feminine ideal. She's so intuitive, she has a gift for detecting storms, storm chasing. But the way that it is depicted here, it's like she has some sort of nature telepathy or some shit. It's like she can just go into a field and look at a dandelion, and it's like, oh, I know what direction the storm is going. And side characters in the movie are always saying things like, she's just so intriguing, and there's just something about that girl. And it's like, what? What is it about this girl? We have nothing really to go off of other than what people claim, and other than the fact that she just stares at clouds longingly. But the plot telegraphs everything so that it conveniently falls into her lap. And thus, there's not really much risk at all. And I am just so tired of this bullshit. I am so tired of women in movies practically having like mystical powers. It does not create satisfying tension or humanity. And now women are doing the masculine heroic jobs that men should be doing, even though they lack the prowess. But, of course, girl power. I love in this movie, it's like there's a twister and all the cars go left to follow it. But no, Kate thinks we need to go right just because she has a feeling. So we all have to go right. Let's not question her. She knows. Just trust her. I just refuse. I'm sorry. There's just too much here that's not working. The romance here isn't sizzling. The effects, like some of them are very impressive, but overall they just don't compare to the original. There's a craft and a spectacle in that one that I think is lacking here. And then the script is just not, it's not funny. It's like, I was sitting in a pretty packed theater, and anytime there was meant to be like a humorous line here or there, it was met with complete silence. I think the impact of the thrills might work better if they just let it unfold with more of a sense of confidence rather than these characters just shouting and screaming at us all the time. Again, the notion of like this independent filmmaker trying to, you know, fill all this dead air with what he thinks is meant to be like popcorn movie fun, you know, it's just not hitting the mark. I think this is just the wrong man for the job, and I stand by that. It's not a terrible film, but there's just too many problems here. Yes, entertaining at times, but then at other times it can be incredibly annoying. I did enjoy maybe like the opening sequence, second opening sequence. They do remind me of the original, but there's just not enough here to create any sort of spark. I would say if you're going to see this in theaters, because, you know, for the spectacle, matinee at best. And that is my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits and I sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.